Hey everyone, it's Matt from GamersCast as usual. Today I wanted to do something a little different, namely because, let's crank that a little bit, mainly because a lot of people wanted my opinions on Fallout 4 and I never gave them, so I'm going to briefly run over them real quick for you and tell you exactly what I think about this game. Because, I'm going to be honest, a full-scale review at this point, it's not going to get the viewership that the time that I would dedicate to that sort of review would ordinarily deserve. So I'm going to basically just run through this for you guys and tell you exactly what my thoughts are. So I feel like most of you have seen the game before, and you know the game. Oh my god! Wow, that's a... Oh my god, it actually is Christmas in the game. Well, it's things like this that are a really nice attention to detail that usually goes unnoticed. This kind of detail is found every now and again in the game, but not entirely too often. I think some of my biggest gripes... Okay, I don't want to get DMCA'd, so I'm going to shut off the radio. But I think some of my biggest gripes comes with the dialogue system. Now I don't want to... I know that was a really weird way to start the review, or this video, but at the same time, the Christmas tree thing threw me off. But right here is my biggest issue with the game. Yes, no, what, sarcastic. Literally every single dialogue option in this game, not every single, but I'd say about 90% of the dialogue options in this game are broken down into that, which means that you don't have perk-specific dialogues, and it makes the dialogues themselves a little less interesting, and I think that sort of thing almost has to happen when you go to a system like that and when you're voicing an actor, giving them 4 things to say rather than a list, and a lot of them being specific. Kind of is upsetting. And I'm just going to get the things I dislike out of the way first. So, or things people may dislike. The whole perks, I mean not perks, but karma in this game. The fact that they got rid of overall karma and they only have companion karma, it's an interesting choice. I kind of like it actually, for it a little bit. But at the same time, I kind of don't, because it seems like the decisions you make really don't affect your surroundings. It only affects this surrounding. Of course, getting a perk for actually taking the time to know your follower helps, but at the same time, I don't feel that I don't feel about that crazy about the decision. I don't know. I kind of wish it was a bit more in depth, where you had karma for individual groups like New Vegas did. And let's go somewhere else. I don't know. Keeping on with the ranting, I think the game itself, I really like the concept of the, what are they called? The, settlements. I like the concept of them, but I feel like there's so many of them and there's so much you can do to build them up, and I feel like the payoff isn't that great. Like... Look at that house. Let's say I built that house from scratch. It doesn't matter. It still looks like it was bombed. That sort of thing, I don't know, it kind of takes the immersion out of it. But at the same time, I like being able to be like, oh, let's make junk actually usable at this point. Let's give them a purpose. I like that bit of it. There's a lot of bits of it that I do like. But overall, after a while, I just found the settlements kind of boring, and I didn't really spend that much time into making them. I only really protected this one and built some reinforcements for it, but not much, as you can tell by this open space. I felt like there was a lot more that could have been done with it in terms of creativity, but when everything looks like it's been bombed, the second you lay it down, it kind of takes away from that to that effect. So it's a mixed bag, and I felt like it was a little bit squandered potential in terms of the settlements. Now, I feel like I've done enough ranting, and let's start to talk about things that I like about the game. First off, it's nice. It's prettier than the other games. I know a lot of people weren't crazy about the graphics for whatever reason, and the graphics got a lot of flack right out of the gate for whatever reason, and I don't really understand that too much. Like, yeah, I get it. It's the same engine as Oblivion was on, and they just keep building on top of it. I get that, and I get there's only so much you can do with it, but it's still not a bad looking game. The overworld itself, it's Boston, it's blown up, it's Fallout, it's nice. It's kind of weird that the bomb happened so many years ago and no one's even attempted to rebuild, but whatever. I will say this about the overworld map, it's very dense. You go, every few feet you go, there's something new to do. You don't have any of those moments where you're just wandering around the wastes like you did in New Vegas and 3. There's constantly things everywhere. And that brings me to the gunplay. Love the gunplay in this game. Feel like the gunplay was very, very, very well done. It's vastly improved. In the old games, or in the prior games rather, ooh, a fusion core. I literally just used VATS for everything because it's not, and I didn't feel like it was because the gunplay was bad per se, but I just used VATS for everything. But now the gunplay is just so nice and feels so good that I'm using VATS about 50%, about half the time. That's it. So, like I say, the gunplay is vastly improved, and I'm really, really liking that aspect of it. Of course, the gunplay has to be a lot more improved when the game seems a lot more reliant on the gunplay than in past games. I feel like the quests aren't nearly as varied. There isn't as much personality to things. I feel like there's just areas and raiders. Raiders essentially just fill every area, and they sort of lack a sort of charisma and personality and charm to them that the other games had. Like in the other games you had like the vaults that had all the Garys in it, and you had things that made every area feel unique. Whereas this game, I feel like each area is just sort of a hub and a den for more raiders and more shit to throw at you. And to that effect, I feel like that kind of takes something away from it. I mean, yeah, there's the whole, they put shit down and they're like, oh look, a teddy bear's here, there's a skeleton here, it must have been a little girl. Like, you put little stories like that. That's something Bethesda's always done in all of their games. But the life of the town, look, raiders. I could have sworn I killed them all in this area, but that doesn't matter. The towns are just raider spawn points, and it's kind of upsetting to that effect, because I like the sort of charm everything played into it. Now, don't get me wrong, at its core, this game plays like Fallout. It's a good game, and I really enjoy it. But I don't know, it's just, they changed things while keeping a lot the same, and I felt like the things they changed weren't necessarily for the better, but at the same time the game is still a Bethesda open world game. It's still a lot to explore and a lot to do. And if you like that sort of thing, you'll love Fallout 4. I still am having a great time with Fallout 4 despite the negative tone of this review, or this video. And I realize this video is taking on a negative tone, and I'd never really intended it to have that negative tone. It's just the matter of the fact that when you're talking about changes, a lot of them aren't always perceived as positive things. And I accept that. And the thing is, like, we've all played all the other Fallout games. If you're watching this, you probably have a lot of experience with them. And most people on my channel just love Fallout, which is why I'm harping on mainly on the changes. And while I still love the game, I still think it plays well. I just have to say I prefer New Vegas, because it was a lot more story driven, and I like that aspect of it. In terms of other good things, I like the mods. I like the idea of the companion app. I don't like that anyone can just clock in without any notification being given and then you just unequip and drop all of your shit. That should probably be patched a little bit. But aside from that, that's really my thoughts on it. Like, it does have its moments where it has an attention to detail, like the Christmas thing, and I saw a Halloween thing a while ago too. I like those sort of things about the game, but I don't know. There's lots of changes. You can still put an absolute ton of time into this game. Like most Bethesda games, hold on. You start here, and you're supposed to go here to start like pretty early on, and it took me maybe 10-15 hours before I even got to that point because I was just exploring. And that's one of the great things about Fallout. It's always been one of the best things about Fallout, is that you can just explore and get lost in the world. And because the world's a lot more dense, there's a lot more to do. I never said the fact that it was more dense was a bad thing. I actually like it as a positive. Some people take it in a negative effect. I like the fact that there's so much more to do. I like the fact that they're making so much DLC, and I like the fact that there's so much to do with this game. Because most of my gripes, I feel, can be addressed in DLC. I feel like a lot of DLC always takes that approach. They always take the let's try something creative and do something different than the safe base game. And that's how a lot of DLC goes, and that's why a lot of the Fallout DLCs are so memorable, because they do that sort of thing. Granted, if we're talking Fallout 3's DLC, a lot of hit or miss. But for this DLC, remains to be seen. New Vegas had phenomenal DLC, I recall. New Vegas had its own sort of feel to it that I loved. But yeah, though in a nutshell, without going on too long, those are my thoughts on Fallout 4. So, I've been Matt, and I'll catch you guys next time. Oh, jeez.